So we are going to start out with the Parmesan crusted salmon. So first of all, I just want to do a quick run through and make sure that everybody's got the ingredients. So I've got my salmon here already portioned into 4. So I'm putting mine on a cookie sheet with a reusable sheet here that basically you can just wash these. You could also have aluminum foil. You could have some parchment paper on there. If you don't mind cleaning up a mess, you can do it right on the cookie sheet, but that's a little bit messy. So that's the first thing. And then also I've got salt and pepper. I've got a 1.5 tablespoons of mayonnaise. If you don't want to use mayonnaise here, you can use a light mayonnaise, an olive oil mayonnaise. You could also use like a plain yogurt if you were really opposed to mayonnaise. Plain yogurt gives the very same effect. I have a 1.5 teaspoons of fresh lemon juice. Before I got that lemon juice, I also took that lemon and zested the lemon. So we're going to do that in a few minutes, but this is a zester. If you, like, I know one person that we chatted earlier and she does not have a zester. So she has a vegetable peeler. So what she's going to do is peel that lemon down and then take those strips and cut those strips in little pieces, and that will work perfectly. So basically you want the zest of that whole lemon. Then I've got a clove of garlic. You can use fresh garlic, jarred garlic. If you don't have that, you can use a little bit of garlic powder, say ½ teaspoon or so. And then we have some Parmesan cheese, grated Parmesan cheese here, 1/4 cup. And then we've got 1/4 cup of breadcrumbs. I've got panko breadcrumbs. You can use any kind. You can even make your own. I did this class a week or so ago, and they had no breadcrumbs, but they had some old bread, so he just made breadcrumbs. So whatever you want to use here. These are whole wheat, but you can use Italian or any kind of breadcrumbs. 1/4 cup there. And then just a very small amount, like 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme. If you don't have thyme, you could use Italian seasoning. You could use some dried basil. If you had fresh, you could use any kind of fresh herbs as well. You just need a small amount. And then a 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil. You can use olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. If you don't have that, you can use any kind of vegetable oil. And that's really all you need. The only additional thing that I've got here is, since we really are only making the salmon entree, as a side, we're going to have broccoli. But if you had asparagus or fresh broccoli, you can make this at the very same time, actually on the same sheet. So that's yes, you really can. And a lot of people will do that, but you could also, already have a side prepared. But I just wanted to mention that about broccoli and asparagus. Those are really good as far as cooking at this high heat. So the very first thing that we want to do is preheat the oven to 400, so everybody can go and get that done. You don't need to do that because, well, on the foil or the parchment paper, you just lay the salmon skin side down, just like I've done here. You don't have to put any oil on it. That olive oil that we are going to use, that's going to be incorporated in later on with our breadcrumbs and our Parmesan cheese, and then that's going to make sort of a paste, and that'll go on the top, but you don't need anything on the bottom. Excellent question. Thank you so much. So my oven is ready to go, so we've got plenty of time. So while that's preheating, we're going to get started. So with the salmon, oh, and one more thing about the salmon is when you put that on your sheet, you just want to make sure that they're not touching so that they can evenly cook. Wash my hands off here, I touched it. So the first thing you want to do is put salt and pepper on your salmon. And it's really just salt and pepper to taste, just depending upon what you like. So I use kosher salt. You can use any kind of salt that you have. I prefer to cook with kosher salt because it's just a bigger fleck. So I'm just giving it a little bit here and a little bit of pepper. You only need to put this on the top, because later on when you bake it, it's going to come off very easily. You can take a spatula and just separate the fish from the skin, and it comes off nicely when you go to plate it. So some other things that you're going to need is a whisk. If you don't have a whisk, you can use a fork, and you're going to need 2 small bowls, because we're going to take part of our ingredients and mix those in one and the other part in the other bowl. So first, we're going to take our mayonnaise. I'm going to get a little spoon here. So that 1.5 tablespoons of mayonnaise is going to go in. Your 1.5 teaspoons of your fresh lemon juice. If you happen to not have fresh lemon juice, that's fine. You can use the bottled stuff. And it's okay if you don't have zest. The zest just sort of helps. So very quickly here, I'm just going to zest.
Christine, as you're doing that, one of the questions was the particular brand of that zester. Do you have a suggestion?
This is called Microplane. This is one of my very favorite kitchen gadgets. I love this. I use this for not only lemons, but I use it for limes. I use it for fresh ginger, really any citrus, oranges, anything like that, but I love it. But yeah, so the brand is Microplane.
And can you explain how you zest it? Like, what's the process that you're using there right now?
So I am right-handed, so that's where my
because she's always right.
Because I'm most of the time. Most of the time. So I'm holding the lemon with my left hand, and I'm gonna zest going down with it. And as I'm moving the zester down, I'm rotating that lemon just very slightly until I'm going to get all the way around that whole lemon. And you just want to do a real light touch, because you only want, and it's probably hard to see, but you only want the yellow. You just want that zest. You don't want that white part, which is the pith, which really I haven't gotten down to that. So once you've zested that, and you've added that 1.5 teaspoons of lemon juice, then you want to add that garlic. It only calls for 1 clove of garlic minced up, but if you like a lot of garlic, feel free to add more. It's really just to your own personal taste. Now here's where you would use the whisk. So feel free to stop me, ask any questions. Jerry and Yolanda are kind of monitoring that. So now I'm just mixing up that garlic and that lemon juice and the mayonnaise. And then with that, we're going to, again, I'm just getting a spoon here. You're going to divide this amount just to the tops of each of your pieces of salmon. You want to try to get at least to the four corners. So basically, I put a little bit on each just to make sure that I'm not putting too much on one and not enough on the other. And then with what I have left, then I go back and add a little bit. And right now, I'm just doing a little dollop on the top. And then you're going to go back with that spoon, and I'm just going to use the back side of the spoon, and you're just going to spread that out.
And you said a dollop? What is a dollop?
A dollop. Did somebody ask that question? Oh my goodness.
No, that's your husband asking that.
A dollop is just like a little spoonful. There's a sour cream commercial, a dollop of Daisy. I don't use Daisy brand, but it's just a little, like a little spoonful. Jerry, come from behind the camera, young man.
Hi.
This is my husband, Jerry. For those of you that don't know Jerry.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, there's a woman blowing a kiss at you.
I love it.
I don't know about that.
Keep coming. I am have many positions here at Full Plate Kitchen, but my main position is I'm kitchen hand. So I use both my hands to help Christine.
So this
Thank you.
evening, he's going to help keep up with he's going to do all the typing there and let me know when there's a question. So now that we have dolloped all of this out here, we're through with that. So now we have a base that we're going to add everything else to that. So now we're going to come over to our second bowl, a little bit bigger than your individual ones here, and we're going to mix the 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese with that 1/4 cup of breadcrumbs, that small amount, that 1/8 of a teaspoon or so of whatever dried herb that you're going to use, thyme, Italian seasoning, whatever you want to use, and the zest of that lemon. And you want to add that in. I need a spoon, excuse me. You want to add that in, and then just give that just a little stir, basically so that all your Parmesan cheese isn't at the bottom. Mix all those breadcrumbs in. You should smell that zest. If you're using fresh lemon, you should be able to smell that zest. That's really going to be nice in the oven. And now, the recipe calls for just a tablespoon of chopped fresh parsley. I really like fresh parsley, so I'm going to use a little bit more, but again, it's totally up to taste. So I've got my fresh parsley here, and I've just got a really big knife, and I'm just going to give it sort of a rough chop. And that way, if you use a really big knife, you don't have to have your fingers in the way. You can just sort of pivot it. Make it as small as you want, because all you're going to do is add this into your Parmesan cheese and your breadcrumbs and your lemon zest there. And then for your very last thing, you're going to take that 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil and add that in. And then you're going to mix that up. If you feel like this mixture looks a little too dry for you, just add a little more olive oil. Now, since I cannot see everybody's kitchen and where everybody is there a way, I mean, if you want to type in, am I going too fast? Does anybody have a question? Because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this mixture on top of the mayonnaise mixture that we already have there. So I like to use my hands here. So as you divide this amongst these 4 tops, you may find that you have like an excess amount here. If this is more than what you want to put on here, if you are going to do fresh broccoli, for instance, which is what I'm going to do, you can add some of this combination right on top of that broccoli or right on top of fresh asparagus. It's all perfect ingredients that go also with those. So first I'm going to put this on here. And then I am going to have a little extra that I'm going to put on my broccoli. Would. I knew he would. Thank you, Mr. Mulder. You, Mike. I knew that was coming, by the way. Thank you. So since I am using my fingers here, I'm going to go back and just give it a light press. A little press down there. Okay, then this is ready to go unless you want to add something to this. Like I mentioned at the beginning, if you had fresh broccoli, which we do, we're just going to put it along the sides here. And then I'm going to take this leftover combination Parmesan, breadcrumbs, parsley, lemon zest. Because basically you just want to use this up. It's not something that you really save and use on anything else. And then if you're using your broccoli or asparagus or anything like that, you also might want to give that just a quick drizzle of olive oil, but you don't need to put any more olive oil on your salmon. That salmon is pretty much ready to go. So if I haven't heard anybody's beep of their ovens, but you want to make sure that your oven is preheated. You don't want to put this in until it definitely is 400. And you also don't want to, open your oven and look at it and check on it, because that's going to very quickly bring that temperature down. So I'm going to put mine in. And some of my salmon pieces were a little on the thick side. So typically you would bake this anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes, but it really depends on the thickness of your salmon, also on how your individual oven heats, if it runs hot, if it runs not quite so hot. So I usually started at 15 minutes, and I find that most of the time I usually have to add another 3 or 4 minutes. And then also depends on if you're cooking something else with it, if you want that broccoli a little more crispy, crunchy, or if you want it a little more brown. We like ours a little more brown. So I'm going to set my timer for, I'm actually going to set mine for 16 minutes. Sort of compensate for that few seconds that I actually opened up the oven, because, it would have brought that temperature down. So that is the simple Parmesan crusted salmon right there, which makes a beautiful dish. Very impressive to your partners, those of you that I know. And heck, it'd be impressive to anybody. And invite over a neighbor, sit out in the yard, sit in the driveway and eat. Does anybody have any questions about our meal or about anything else? See everyone's beautiful faces.
I was going to ask a quick question.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Doesn't have to be quick. You got plenty of time.
Okay. If I wanted to use like a different fish, like a flounder or something, I know that it's thinner than that would be. So would I need to compensate by cooking the fish a little bit
exactly
less?
If you did something like flounder, tilapia, something like that where it's really thin, you could still do it at the 400, but bring your time down like 8 to 10 minutes and just look at it.
Okay.
And then also that would be a perfect topping for those, because really flounder, I love flounder, but it really doesn't have a lot of flavor. So it really is a perfect item that takes on flavor, sort of like tofu. You can really do anything with it. You could even add a little more lemon juice. You could add, you could take a lemon. You only need, 1.5 teaspoons for this recipe, but you could take some of that lemon and you could slice it in really thin slices, sort of lay that on the top and then kind of roast those lemon slices. Makes for a really pretty display as well. Okay, but that's what I would do. I would just take, I would take that time down to maybe 8 to 10 minutes.
Okay, because those are the ingredients that I have right now, so I will be trying that this evening.
Oh, and that's what I was telling Yolanda before we got started. I said, this is a really quick recipe. So if anybody, had other items just kind of laying around in the freezer or fridge, and you're not really sure, well, what could I do with these things, or how could I possibly put that together, and maybe grab something from the pantry. Okay. And make a meal, because there's just, and especially fish, that's a really wonderful thing to be eating right now. It's so much healthier for you than, a bow box, I don't know, with Texas toast and French fries, and carbs on top of carbs. So right. I mean, we have a little bit of carbs in this recipe, but at least it's a balance.
Okay.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
So back in 2012, I met, well, in 2011, I met the man of my dreams. And in 2012, oh, it's
That would be me.
that'd be this one.
I gotta clarify that.
And so when we got married in 2012, at the beginning of 2013, we embarked on this adventure of owning and operating a commercial kitchen. So I got an LLC. We acquired a very, very large commercial kitchen that had an event hall attached to it, and we ran that and did that business there for 4 years. We had a restaurant as well. At the same time, we did prepared meals online. We were located really close to a university, so that was a big help. We provided meals to a lot of the professors. We also provided meals to sports teams. So it was a lot of learning there. I feel like my psychology degree has helped because, you're dealing with the general public, and sometimes the general public are a bunch of nuts. So that has been really helpful, but we learned a lot, and one of the things that we learned, and maybe I shouldn't say we, maybe I should just say me, but we did learn this at the same time, was that's not what we want to do. We don't want to cook for 200 people on a Saturday night and then get up and do breakfast for 100 people on Sunday, because Christine cannot say no. So we don't want to do that. So when we had employees in the kitchen, we would get, we'd get them started, and then Jerry would stay there and monitor that situation. And then I started providing personal chef services to some of the clients that we already had, but they wanted that extra service. They wanted me to actually do their menu planning and not just have them come pick up 1 or 2 meals a week, but they wanted me to do their meals for the week so they wouldn't have to think about what they were going to be eating. And they wanted particular things. Most of the time they wanted something healthy, or maybe they had children with allergies, that sort of thing. So I sort of evolved into that. And we were in a smaller town as opposed to Charlotte. So when we moved to Charlotte, that just really expanded the horizons for basically for the clientele that would be interested in my services. So that is what I do currently. And since the coronavirus, though, we have started doing virtual classes like this, because basically it's a way to still connect with people through food. And what I've enjoyed the very most about it is getting to meet people in other states and even in other countries. That's been a fun thing that we've done over the last few weeks, is getting to be in people's kitchens and sort of cook with them, either with a prepared meal like you guys have, where you had the recipe and the ingredient list, or just sort of freestyle cooking where they told me ahead of time, we've got some frozen broccoli and we've got some oatmeal and we have some chicken breast, and what can we do? So we've been cooking with children, we've been cooking with adults, so it's just been sort of a gamut of things. No, no, I do not. So I've got a degree in psychology and a minor in social work, and so I did work in my field for quite some time when I was much, much younger, but in the background I always wanted to cook. So there was a job I had where in that particular job they had a lot of meetings, and usually in the meetings it was a lot of women. And what do women, and I don't mean to be stereotyping because I am a woman, but they like to get together and they like to eat. So we were ordering out a lot. And so I said, well, I could probably put together some sandwiches and some salads and things, and I'd only charge you this amount. So with that particular job, they let me do my 9-to-5 office job, and then they also let me start, they allowed me to sort of cater for them a little bit. So I did that gig for as long as I could, because that was great fun. And so that kind of got a foot in the door with the whole catering thing. But no, I don't have a business degree, but I feel like I've got some business background now as far as owning my own business. And I really just enjoy the more creative aspect of it. But then, there has to be someone that, sort of runs the numbers and, does the books. And so, I had to learn a whole lot of things like, oh, you have to pay sales and use tax every month. If you have an LLC, you have to file an annual report, which basically means you have to give the Secretary of State $200 every year, whether your business is doing well or not. And you have to pay those sales and use taxes every month, no matter what. And all of the overhead that we had when we had that commercial kitchen, you have to pay employees, and oh my gosh, that is the biggest pain. Having an employee, I mean, we only had one full-time employee, but it's just all of that, unemployment tax and all of this stuff that you really just wouldn't think about, or I didn't think about it until I had to.
And so how did you learn how to think about that? Was there a specific resource that you and Jerry used?
Right here,
Jerry,
I'm the resource.
Jerry,
Well, I say that jokingly, but so Christine's love language is food. She always has wanted to provide healthy meals to everybody. She always loves the idea of people gathering around food. And so and a funny story is when I first met Christine, we had a date. And we went out on this date, and like she was saying, she was working at this company, and I kept her out late that evening, not realizing that she was kind of a person that goes to bed early because she gets up early. And so the date ended with her telling me that she had to go home and prepare this food for the next day.
Cakes. I had to go home and make pound cakes.
Which,
I was making pound cakes. Let me tell the rest of the
story.
Yeah,
for her employer.
I was making pound cakes at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I don't even stay up that late. And the whole time I'm because I'm not making them from a box. I'm actually making them. And I'm like, that guy, he better be worth all this. Here I am baking at 10, 11 o'clock at night. And of course he was worth it.
That's still to be determined.
What I was doing.
But so that's just a story about, Christine trying to do both careers, a career that all of us have, earning our salaries and working and having benefits, and then her other career of being a culinary artist, her passion. Yeah. And so the career that she has chosen in food preparation, it does require a lot of discipline, especially being a person in the food business, because Christine spends probably about 15 hours a day thinking about food, and the rest of the time she's sleeping. But, just to prepare the meal planning. So she'll do these meal plans, and that takes quite a bit of her time. So that's a skill that she does a lot of reading. She's got a library of cookbooks. Christine is a home cook. She has learned the trade of cooking from reading all of her resource library books.
Okay, let me go back.
And so the meal planning takes a lot of that that she's read. And then the grocery shopping. She spends a lot of time going to the grocery stores and selecting the best quality foods and buying the things that are more healthy. And she can talk more about that. And then, of course, the actual preparing of the food, that's a big part of it, of course, as well. And then, getting the food to the folks, the clients. And then she kind of closes everything up with, a good explanation of all of that food that she's prepared. So I've kind of given just a scenario of her normal day, which would be, meal planning, through grocery shopping, through meal preparation, through meal delivery. So I'll let Christine continue with that. So the first thing you do is
organic research.
well, and also, so you start a business, so you become, so the name.
The Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce was very, very helpful, and we started we started doing like the business meetings for the Chamber of Commerce. They found out that my food was healthy, and they're really, in that town at that time, there weren't very many options of really healthy, freshly made items. And so they had weekly board meetings, and so that was sort of how I, endeared myself to them, and then we became members of the chamber. So that's a really important thing, that if anybody would be interested in that sort of thing, is, get with the Chamber of Commerce in whatever, wherever you live.
Yeah, relationship building is so critical, because when you meet people, in the restaurant business or people in the food business, they are generally very friendly, of course, because they realize that that's how they grow the business. But even before the relationship building, you have to establish yourself as a business. So Christine picked the name Full Plate Kitchen. You want to tell them how you picked that name?
Oh, my tagline is, when your plate's too full to fill theirs.
And
so that was.
And that tagline, I think, speaking for Christine, I think comes from how a lot of
especially women.
Right, a lot of women who have already their full plate, right? They're working, they got a family to take care of, they got to clean the house, and then they also have to prepare meals. So that was kind of where her tagline came, when your plate is too full to fill theirs. So she came up with the name Full Plate Kitchen, and then she applied for an LLC. So she has had that position, that LLC, now since 2012.
Everybody's salmon, is anybody's ready? Hi, Mrs. Mulder. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
So my timer's going off, so I'm gonna pull my salmon out, and I don't know if everybody has a food thermometer like this, but this is gonna tell me if my salmon is at least 145 degrees. That's what you want. If you don't have one of these, if you can just take a fork and sort of flake, take your fork, and if your salmon flakes pretty easily, then it's done. If you don't feel like it's done, pop it back in for another minute or so. Mike, do you have yours in front of you that we could see?
Sorry, I had you on mute because the dogs are barking, but I was not able to get started with everybody because I was on different conference calls. So I'm just kind of watching from afar.
Taking notes.
Okay.
Taking copious notes for next time.
Well, while Christine's pulling the salmon out, I was going to mention that, another thing that's very, very critical and important, of course, is to be Serve Safe certified.
Oh, yeah.
So Serve Safe is a very basic state mandated, actually federal mandated. It's all over the world, in that anybody in the food industry has an opportunity to get Serve Safe qualified, and it's a course that's offered in many places, online or community colleges. So both Christine and I have done that. We paid for our the people that work for us. We paid for them to get Serve Safe certified. When you go into a restaurant, you'll see a sign up on the wall that will indicate who all is Serve Safe certified. It's the minimum, right?
And there has to be at least one person, when you go into any restaurant, there has to be at least one person in the back of the kitchen that is certified, and they have to be present at the time. So that's why you see, even in McDonald's, somebody has to be Serve Safe certified, and if that one person happens to be absent on the day when the inspection person comes, you're gonna get dinged for that. So that's why they will have, you know, various people, so that if somebody's out sick, or if it's just the manager and he or she is not there, somebody has to be certified. So my certification lasts, I've already done it twice, but each time it lasts 5 years. So.
And Christine and I have ServSafe management. So we've got a little extra where it's understood that we're managing. Then you can also have ServSafe employees too that are not managing the business. So again, it's a wonderful thing that is overseen by our government. And just to show you, can you all see this?
Oh, can you see the 100?
Yes.
We were very proud of our 100 when we got our sanitation grade of 100.
So
we had shirts made.
So if you're an establishment, the inspector will show up at your business and will inspect you. And they don't call you ahead, of course. So they basically show up, and Christine just goes into a panic and starts perspiring.
I did.
And you know, but the thing is, you can't avoid it. And the reason why you'd go into a panic is that it's just like it's an audit, right? So the person comes in and they're basically auditing your facility. And you know, they have good intention, because what they want to do is they want to make sure that what you're providing to the public is healthy. And that's what the whole purpose is. So it's a very good ideal situation to have. It's just that in any situation, when somebody's auditing you, it's a little stressful. But we did reach 100%, which was wonderful. And so that's something that, you know, is important if you ever are interested in getting in the food industry.
Hi, Jerry and Christine. That was my question that I had. So you do have to have the ServSafe certification. And then if you're doing personal, like a personal chef, you have to be within a commercial kitchen. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. That is.
So you don't have
correct.
to?
No. So another thing that I forgot to mention is you also need to have liability insurance. So whenever we had the commercial kitchen, we had liability insurance, of course, for the physical building. But as a personal chef, I also have liability insurance. But what I do is I do the meal planning and the grocery shopping, and then I prepare the meals at the client's home.
Okay. All right.
Now, for, you know, just for friends of mine that periodically order, they don't care where I make the food as long as, you know, okay.
Can't
say that, but no, seriously, for my regular clients,
right,
I have liability insurance. I have the ServSafe. They don't necessarily care about that, but I do some work with another personal chef, and so I'm like I'm a contractor for this other person, and she requires that I have liability insurance, that I have ServSafe, and those clients, even though they're my clients in the sense that I prepare their menus and they approve the menu, and I go to their house and I prepare those meals. In essence, they're really her clients. They pay her, and then I get paid from her because of being a contract worker. So, and we have a contract and all of that. So you don't have to have a commercial kitchen as long as you are preparing in someone's home.
In their home.
Exactly, because you're not selling to the general public. You know, you're preparing it to their in their house. Typically, you would provide your own things, like your own spices, your own. I take my own pots and pans. I take my own knives, you know, cutting boards, those kinds of things, because you're going to be more comfortable using your own things.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then you go in, you clean everything first, you know, because, you know, their counters may or may not be all that clean. So you sanitize everything, you prepare everything, you package it, you label it, put it in the fridge, and then you clean up everything and you leave.
Okay.
I think, Verlette, I think those are very good questions, and I think that it's sort of like still a bit of a cottage industry.
Yes.
Is that, you know, one of the reasons that Christine decided to do this was that it really lowered her overhead, right? Before, we used to have a commercial kitchen, we had employees, we had vehicles, we had, you know, all of those were overhead. And everybody in the industry has those, right? If you have a brick and mortar building, if you got all of those issues. So the personal chef service does reduce that overhead, but it's still, in my opinion, in our opinion, still critical that we have maybe even above the quality level. And so that's what we're promoting, is how important, like what Christine is doing, she's measuring the temperatures of the fish, of the salmon, because she's concerned and she cares about her clients. So it'd be very important to know if there's any allergies that your clients have, if there's any other kind of thing. So I think that's the main emphasis, that it is a personal chef service. We are going into people's houses using their kitchen, and there is some oversee as to that we are a business, a legitimate business that does all that. But I think the important thing is that the quality continues to be the main reason you're doing it, and not to create revenue, but more to create a quality product that busy families would need.
Okay.
That sounded lovely.
All right, thank you.
Anybody that was actually making the salmon, I had to give mine an extra 3 or 4 minutes. So when I took it out of the oven the first time, my smallest piece on the far end, it was done. So I took it out, but the rest of it had to go for a few more minutes. So now it's ready. So you can eat it as is. If you're going to refrigerate it, you want to make sure you want to cool it. Ooh, that looks good. Whose is that? Looks really good up there in the upper right hand. That's beautiful. Oh, that's yours. Jorgen Linda, you're going to have a nice dinner. That's beautiful. So this is also really good cold, like the next day over a fresh spinach or something like that. It makes a really good salad.
We had a question that if someone is doing like dinner parties, and they're growing a business where it's not just friends, but possibly inviting the public into a dinner party, what would be the ramifications of that?
Who's asking? So I can say the Melanie?
Yeah.
So I've actually done some of those with friends. Now you can do that and not charge anything, just sort of, you want to get people's opinions on, maybe different types of foods that you're cooking. I know in a lot of other states, they do those and they're sort of like a pop-up dinner. You can call it like a pop-up dinner. As far as the legality of that, I think it works better if it's people that you know. If you start doing that with the general public and you don't necessarily know everybody, where that might become an issue is, something like food poisoning. I mean, not that of course you wouldn't do anything on purpose, but it has happened. And, if you don't have any kind of liability insurance or anything there, then that's really going to be a terrible thing, because they may be all lovely in the beginning, but as soon as someone gets sick, it can get very ugly very, very quickly. So I would be really careful about that, and make sure that you do get some liability insurance. And if you're interested, Yolanda's going to, if you're interested, she can give me your email information, and I can send you, who I use for my liability insurance.
Yeah, there are a couple of companies out there that specialize in personal chef services where they would provide a liability insurance. They sort of understand the industry and they do that. the other thing I was going to add to what Christine said, you know, it's the money, right? If you follow the money is, if you are getting money from the public, that's where you would need to be able to show that revenue.
Right.
So in Christine's case, all the money that she earns in her personal chef services, that's her income. That is shown on our income taxes.
So I pay taxes on that.
So she pays taxes on that. So it's a legitimate income. It's recorded. It's at the end of the year. It's shown as her business income. And so the legality is that it's the money. It's how are you generating the money? We're generating it from this personal service, and that personal service has certain clients, and those clients are registered with us, and so we can't go and sell to, like, we could have a dinner party if one of our clients wanted Christine to do a dinner party, she would sell all the food to her client, and then her client could invite guests.
Yeah, so I've done dinner parties and, you know, birthdays and showers and rehearsal dinners at people's homes, but the person's home that it belongs to, that's the person, that's my client, just that one family or that one person, and then they invite everybody in. So they're not, you know, they're not charging anybody else to come in. It's just like if Jerry and I hired someone to come in and cook for a group of 8 of our friends, we would just pay that person, but we're not charging our friends.
Hi guys,
Hi.
my name is Selma. I mean, what I do is totally different. I mean, I just bake. I bake a lot. And everybody is like family and friends are telling me to, you know, make this as a business.
Because it's probably so good.
Thank you. It's a little bit different than, I'm from Tunisia, which is in North Africa, so I'm very open to European and French bakery and pastry. So everybody's really liking it, and I didn't learn this in a school or anything.
Right.
But I wanna, you know, go and do improve that further. Like I wanna learn better, like the science of it, and then I want to make it legal. Like I've been selling, but not legally.
Right. Well, so there's something else that we did. Well, so one thing you can do is you can get yourself an LLC and become that actual business. Now, it's really different if your bakeries are very different than the general food service, because with a bakery, you know, there's no cross contamination with, you know, with raw chicken or anything like that. If you're just strictly baking and you're not saying that you're gluten-free, if you're going to be gluten-free, you have to have like a whole separate kitchen, and there's a lot of issues around that. But something else that we did was we also were part of a local farmers market, and so I think if you can sort of talk with the people that run maybe some of the farmers markets close to where you live, that's an option where you could sell some of your baked goods there legally, and you could just find out what would be necessary from whoever's running the farmers market, because that's a good way, especially for baked goods, if you don't have a brick and mortar store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I mean, all the answers that you guys provide are really helpful to me, like the Chamber of Congress, the liability.
Chamber of Commerce, yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all that I need to, I guess, go step by step and see how it's gonna work. But thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And then also, you know, like my husband mentioned, you know, really it's about communication. It's about promoting yourself, and it's a learning process. I mean, when we started out, you know, Jerry's always known more people than I have, but you know, you just really, you don't need to meet a stranger, and you just need to, you know, get out there and promote yourself, you know, do some little samples and that kind of stuff, and go and talk to those people at the farmers market. That's something that's going to be as soon as this coronavirus is done, but that's like the very next thing here, because we're at the end of April, you know, June, July, August, that's the height of farmers markets, and people love something different. So it sounds like, you know, you would have something very different than just, you know, a basic bread or a basic cookie. You're going to have roots, you know, in different areas, and people are going to be drawn to that. I'm drawn to it, and I can't even see your face, and I want some of your stuff right now.
It's because I'm not ready. So your advice for me is to contact the local farmers market first, right?
Yes, I think that would be good, and then they would let you know if there were any restrictions as far as you baking from your home.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Dale, yes. Oh, with her broccoli. Very nice. And I saw somebody else's, but I'm not sure whose it was. It was up in the upper right-hand corner, but now y'all are switched around.
Jorg. It was Jorg.
Oh, it was Jorg. That's right. I think she had some other meeting. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the folks that came to this. I know we had a couple of other people that had signed up, and I appreciate that they signed up, but there must have been a bigger name on the other line, and that's okay. And I appreciate the definition of dollop. Thank you for that.
Yolanda, I was just going to mention, I saw your response about the resource of the library. Did you mention that, or maybe I didn't hear you?
Nope, I was just going to say it. Just wanted to thank y'all for dedicating or donating your time for this experience. You answered a lot of questions for those personal chefs out there. If you did have questions about like just doing a little background research about your business, we do have a Book a Librarian program. It's a virtual program that goes on right now. And so you can speak with library staff and find out about the library's resources like Simply Analytics and Reference USA and other resources we have for business owners that can help them with the process of owning their own business.
Oh, good. So then Selma could contact the library as well, right? Which is how she found out about this, I'm guessing, from the...
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you guys so much. It's very helpful.
All right. Well, I know that Jerry put in your contact information, your Facebook, your email, and your IG, Instagram tag somewhere in the chat, but I can send that to everybody so you'll have that after the program. So any other questions? Well, if that's it, you all have my email address. If you have any other questions or want to try and get in contact with Christine again, feel free to email me. And thank you for coming to this program. And thank you, Christine and Jerry, for sharing.
And thank you, Yolanda, and thank you to all of those people that are out there